The ticket I didn't tell anyone about. I think I broke the scanner, I whispered to the clerk. The numbers on the screen lit up like a dare, and my throat went dry. It wasn't broken. I had one. Millions. The kind of number that makes your knees bargain with gravity. I forced a laugh so thin you could see daylight through it, slid the ticket back into my wallet, and told the clerk I'd check it at home. He shrugged, bored. I walked into the parking lot feeling like a spy who'd swallowed the microfilm. For 2 blocks I drove under the speed limit, fingers white on the wheel. My life, as of 10 minutes ago, was a pile of overdue notices and a coffee-stained resume. I fixed leaky sinks for a living and patched other people's houses while mine creaked like a ship. And then this, a ridiculous storm of luck landing squarely on a guy whose most extravagant purchase last month was extra guacamole. I didn't tell a soul. Not my brother Theo, who loves to brainstorm investments that somehow involve a jet ski. Not my mother, who would cross herself, burst into happy tears, and then start apologizing for ever doubting me. Not even Lena, my almost ex who still texts me photos of stray cats and songs she thinks I'll like. I went home, locked the door, and sat at my tiny kitchen table with the ticket face down, as if it could be spooked. Here's the part I'm not proud of: the longer I stared, the more a petty idea grew legs. I wanted to know who would help me when I had nothing, really nothing, without knowing I had everything. A test. Ugly word, I know. But my head replayed every time I'd hauled somebody's couch, spotted someone's rent, showed up at 2 a.m. with jumper cables. I told myself I just needed proof before I let this money rearrange my life. By midnight the plan was a breathing thing. Tomorrow I'd call my family and say I was in a tight spot: car trouble, rent, a job lead I couldn't get to without gas. Small asks, nothing dramatic. I'd keep my voice steady, no guilt trips. And I'd keep the ticket in my wallet like a secret heartbeat, counting who heard it and who didn't. I started with my brother because Theo always answers on speakerphone, as if his life is an ongoing broadcast. Bro, he boomed over clinking glasses. You caught me at a genius moment. I'm mapping out this food truck/podcast idea. I told him my car's transmission coughed itself into retirement and I was short for the repair. Quiet. Ice in a glass. Man, timing, he said, voice softening. If you'd asked last week. I just moved money into a thing. But I can repost your GoFundMe if you make one. He meant well. He often means well. It just doesn't translate into doing well. I thanked him and hung up before he promised t-shirts. Next was my cousin Maya. We grew up like twins until adulthood made us different currencies. I let the desperation sit plainly in my voice. Could I borrow $200 till Friday? Papers rustled. A keyboard clattered. I'm at work, Jay, she said, using the tone that turns a name into offense. You know I'd love to, but I'm budgeting for the baby. Ask Mom. I wished her luck, meant it, and ended the call staring at the ceiling stain I've never fixed. Mom picked up on the first ring. Sweetheart. She doesn't email, but she can sense trouble through cellular towers. I fed her my story, lighter this time, no melodrama. Come by after church, she said. I made soup. We'll look at your bills. She didn't promise cash. She promised soup and company and a table to spread problems on. Somehow that steadied me more than any number. I dialed Dad and hung up before the first ring finished. I haven't called him in 3 birthdays, he always returns it with a cryptic text and a thumbs up. Instead I tried Aunt Nita, who believes every problem can be solved by essential oils and a motivational video. She offered a discount on lavender and a link to a webinar with a man wearing too many bracelets. So far, my invisible millions felt heavier than debt. I told myself the test wasn't about shaming anyone, it was about understanding my scaffolding before I built higher. But the truth? I wanted to be chosen without asking twice. Sundays smelled like rain and church perfume in Mom's hallway. She hugged me like I was a carton of eggs and sat me at the table before I could take off my jacket. Eat first, talk after, she said, sliding over a bowl of chicken soup with noodles that looked hand-braided. I told the story between spoonfuls, the transmission hiccup, the late rent, the new job I couldn't reach without wheels. None of it true except the way my voice shook. Mom listened with her elbow on the table, chin in her palm, eyes doing that math only mothers know, budgeting worry across 1,000 possible months. She didn't ask why I hadn't saved more. She didn't bring up the time she co-signed for Theo and paid for it with 2 years of phone calls from the bank. She stood, opened the pantry, and pulled down the old ceramic jar with blue flowers. Rainy day, she'd painted on it back when I was 12 and thought coins grew under couch cushions. She unscrewed the lid and counted out bills that had the soft, laundered feel of being handled by Hope too many times. "It's 340, she said. "Take it. Pay me back when you can. Or don't. Your car gets you to your work, and your work gets you to your life." I stared at the jar like it might start speaking. "Ma, I can't." "You can," she said. "And you will. But you'll also take this." She moved to the counter and revealed a sheet of paper with a mechanic's number circled twice. "He fixed Mrs. Lopez's Buick for half. Tell him your mother sent you. Men like feeling useful." Then she did something that cut through all my secret games. She took my hands and prayed, not for money, but for steadiness. My throat betrayed me, I had to look away so she wouldn't see my face go uneven. This was the only real offer so far. No lectures. No conditions. Just soup, a plan, and cash she probably saved $5 at a time. I folded the money into my wallet next to the ticket. It felt like putting a seashell beside a grenade. On the way out, she pressed a grocery sack into my arms, bread, fruit, the brand of coffee she knows I pretend I can't taste the difference with. "Text me when you get to the shop," she said. I promised I would. In the car, rain sprinted across the windshield, and for a long minute I just sat with the engine off, hearing the 2 different heartbeats in my pocket, hers and mine, both of them trying to guide me home. The mechanic looked at my sedan like a doctor reading a chart he didn't want to explain. "Transmission's not dead," he said, wiping his hands on a rag that used to be a shirt. "It's whispering its last love letters." I told him my mother sent me. "Ah, Rosa's boy," he said, as if that alone lowered the price. His name tag read Gus in block letters, the kind a person keeps even after the glue gives up. He quoted me a number that made my stomach wobble, then cut it nearly in half. Mom's name was a coupon and a blessing. I slid over the cash from her jar like it was borrowed breath. While he worked, I sat on a plastic chair and texted the family group chat, "Anyone passing near Maple this week? Need a lift to a job site Wednesday." Replies poured in fast, gifs of cars on fire, Theo's laughing emojis, and Nita's voice note about the power of positive visualization. Advice is the cheapest currency in my family. Rides, apparently, were luxury goods. Gus called me over. "You've been nursing this," he said, pointing with a wrench. "When's the last time someone took care of you?" The question landed weirdly. "Working on it," I said. He tightened one last bolt, then slapped the fender like you do a tired horse. "She'll last," he promised. "Drive polite." I drove home with that phrase circling my head, "drive polite," like it could apply to more than roads. The ticket in my wallet felt hot. I pulled into my spot, turned off the engine, and listened to the car settle. Then I went upstairs and did something practical. I bought a cheap black notebook from the corner store and wrote on the first page in shaky block letters, rules. 1. Don't announce. 2. Find a lawyer and a planner before touching a dime. 3. Pay debts quietly. 4. Protect mom first. 5. Test over soon. Underneath, like a footnote I wasn't ready to admit, I added, 6. Tell the truth, when you can stand it. I texted Mom, "Gus is a magician. Making soup again next Sunday." She sent back a heart and a photo of the jar, now empty, with a sticky note, "refilling." I almost told her then. I almost said, "You'll never have to refill anything again." Instead I put the notebook on the table and the ticket beside it, 2 thin objects that could overturn a life. I set my phone face down and let the apartment go quiet long enough to hear my own pulse, loud, stubborn, and for the first time in years, hopeful. I woke up convinced the ticket had slipped out of my wallet and flown away like a startled moth. I tore through drawers, checked the freezer, don't ask, even patted down the laundry basket like it might confess. There it was, flat as a secret against the notebook, exactly where I left it. Still, the scare got in my bones. I drove to a hardware store and bought a fireproof safe the size of a bread loaf and a roll of painter's tape. I wrote "warranties/old receipts" in thick letters and stuck it on the lid. Paranoia, but polite. The test clock was still running, so I dialed my father. 2 rings, then his baritone voicemail, "Leave it." I left it, short, careful, a small ask about a ride Wednesday if he had time. He texted back an hour later, "Busy. You'll figure it out." A thumbs up ballooned after, like applause from a single hand. It shouldn't have stung. It did. Lena was next. I'd promised myself I wouldn't involve her, but the habit of leaning toward her voice is hard to break. "I can't spot cash," she said gently when I asked, "but I can come sit with you at the shop. Or I'll make you dinner after my shift." She meant it. She always means it. Kindness in small bowls. I thanked her and said I was okay, and we both let the silence fill with the things we never fix. By afternoon I'd made another rule: find a professional before this turns into a bonfire. I Googled discreetly, cleared my history like a teenager, and called a law office with a name that sounded like old wood and calm, Baines and Alder. The receptionist spoke in cotton. "We can see you Tuesday," she said. "Bring no one, bring nothing with numbers." I wrote Tuesday, 10 a.m., in the notebook and underlined it until the paper almost tore. That night, I tried to sleep with the safe under my bed like a small animal guarding me. But my mind kept rolling back to the same frame, Mom's hands tipping bills from the blue flower jar, the way she didn't hesitate. Only one person had truly reached. The others had sent thoughts, emojis, advice. She handed me a ladder. The ticket and the jar money lay together in the safe, 2 heartbeats in the dark, and I promised both I'd be worthy when morning came. The lawyer didn't congratulate me. He folded his hands, looked at me over half-moon glasses, and said, "You're going to pretend to be broke for 90 days. I laughed, then realized he wasn't joking. No big purchases. No sudden generosity. No mysterious upgrades. We build a fence before we open the gate. His office smelled like lemon oil and old books, the kind of room where bad ideas go to calm down. I told him everything, minus the test. He nodded through the outline, asked me to write the numbers down from memory, then to keep the original somewhere, not under your bed, Mr. Calder. I tried not to flinch. "We'll form a trust," he said, sliding a legal pad between us. "We'll hire a tax professional who sleeps like a baby because everything's filed. You will not quit your job yet. You will not announce. You will move slow enough to be boring." I confessed I'd already asked family for small help. His mouth twitched. "Then be grateful, not theatrical. Keep receipts. Keep quiet." His pen tapped once. "And please, no more experiments." The word landed like a ruler on my knuckles. From the sidewalk I called the bank and, to my surprise, rented a safe deposit box the same afternoon. The manager was cheerful about it, the way people are cheerful when they think they're helping you store a birth certificate. I drove home with the ticket in an envelope wedged under my thigh, narrating every lane change aloud like a driver's ed student. At the bank, the box swallowed the envelope with a small, civilized clink. My pockets felt weightless and terrifying. On the way out, Theo texted, "Random, can you co-sign for a lease? It's a pop-up concept. Minimal risk." Minimal risk is what people say right before you start sleeping on a futon. I wrote back, "Can't. Love you." He replied with a thumbs up and a rocket ship, which somehow made me feel like an anchor. Back at the apartment, the door stuck the way it always does, so I shoulder barged it open and froze. The safe, that little bread loaf with the liar's label, wasn't quite where I'd left it. It sat cocked at an angle, painter's tape bubbled as if someone's thumb had hovered there too long. On top, a yellow sticky note I did not write, cute label. No signature. No smiley face. Just that. My heart lurched into a sprint. I checked the window latch, the closets, behind the shower curtain like a bad movie. Nothing disturbed, nothing missing that I could see. But the tiny animal that had been guarding me wasn't under the bed anymore. Now it was out in the room, staring back. Someone had a key. That thought clicked louder than the door latch. I stood there staring at the sticky note, cute label, like it might unstick and float me an explanation. The safe wasn't open, the painter's tape was just pressed harder, like a thumb had rested there, considering. I checked the window locks again. I opened cabinets, peered into the shower, tapped the closet doors with 2 fingers like they could confess. Nothing. No drawer out of place, no couch cushion sulking at an angle. Just the note. Smug yellow. I called the super. No work orders for 2B, he said. Unless the roaches learn to fill forms. He laughed. I didn't. He promised to check the master log, he never called back. I texted Lena, we still friends with keys? She replied with a one-word knife, nope, and then, softer, I gave it back in March, remember? She attached a photo of my key on my palm, time-stamped. Right. My stomach did a slow turn. Mom. I haven't used that spare, she said. I'd ask first. Who's in your place without you? Her voice sharpened the way it does when the smoke alarm chirps. Change the locks, sweetheart. Today. Theo, when I asked if he ever made a copy back when we were swapping couches, what? No. But if someone's creeping, I can bring my bat named diplomacy. I told him to stay home. Hardware store, round 2. New deadbolt. Door bar. 2 cheap motion cameras that look like blinking toys until they're not. I watched 4 minutes of an installation video narrated by a cheerful man who has never met a stubborn screw. Then I wrestled the deadbolt into place, sweat salty in my eyes, the door finally accepting its new brass heart with a metallic sigh. I set 1 camera in the entry, the other facing the safe. I renamed the Wi-Fi network to something boring, printer_2. I made a new rule in the notebook, 7, don't be easy. Bait, I decided. I put a single $5 bill in the safe and a photocopy of my ticket numbers with 1 digit changed. A decoy heartbeat. I shut the safe gently, set a hair across the seam, old spy trick I learned from a movie, and a mug on the safe so any movement would clink. Then I left the apartment on purpose, jacket on though it was warm, and sat in my car facing the stairs with the camera feed open on my phone. For 30 minutes, nothing. A neighbor's dog sneezed off screen. Somewhere a TV argued. At minute 38, the entry camera pinged. A shadow hesitated at my door. The new deadbolt turned once, tested. Then a soft knock, almost polite. I held my breath so hard my ribs complained. Another pause. Footsteps retreating, no face, no hat brim, just the shape of someone who knew enough to be careful. My phone buzzed a second after with an unknown number, relax. I'm not here for your warranties. My hands went cold. I stared at the text until the dots stopped pulsing. Whoever they were, they'd read my label and my life. I typed back 3 times and erased each draft. Then I drove to Mom's with the notebook under my arm like a passport, because suddenly every secret felt like an unlocked door. Mom set out tea like she was building a fort. Tell me everything, she said, and I did, note, camera, the text that sounded like someone leaning over my shoulder. I slid the sticky across the table. She touched the corner like it might still be warm. You call the police? She asked. I shook my head. What's my report? Someone admired my handwriting. Her mouth thinned. Then you call your father. I stared at the steam. We don't, that's not how we do things. She gave me the look that used to precede groundings. We do safety, she said. Call. Before I could pick a fight with my pride, my phone buzzed. Unknown again, good deadbolt. Screws are too short. Use 3-inch. I felt my skin pull tight. 10 seconds later, another text, an extreme close-up of my door jamb showing stubby screws like baby teeth. I hadn't sent that image to anyone. How? I started. Mom took the phone gently. Someone who knows doors, she said. Or someone who thinks they do. She scrolled, unreadable. I'm calling him. Ma, I protested. He'll make this about keeping you breathing, she said, already dialing. She didn't ask permission. She never has when the house is smoking. While it rang, I swallowed the ache of old arguments. My father and I talk in safe topics, the weather, the score, whose back hurts more. Anything that starts with, why, ends with silence. She left a message, short and crisp, the way she orders ribs at the church picnic. I could feel the old choreography reassembling, Dad with a toolbox, Mom clearing a path, me pretending I don't need either. The phone buzzed again. Unknown, don't sleep there tonight. The words landed like a cold hand on my chest. I typed, fingers too big suddenly, who are you? 3 dots. Then, a reminder. No more. I'm going back, I said, standing too fast. If someone's playing games in my home, they don't get round 2. Mom raised a palm. You leave fresh bread on a porch, stray cats learn your schedule. She slid my keys off the table and pocketed them like they were dangerous. You stay. You eat something. We wait for your father. He knows locks. I wanted to argue. Instead my stomach growled like a traitor. While the kettle muttered, she pulled down the blue flour jar, empty again, light as a joke, and set it between us like a mascot. I don't like secrets in my house, she said. But I know you're carrying a thing you think will change everything. Here's my advice, don't let it change you first. I looked at my hands, the half-moons where the deadbolt had fought me. I'm trying, I said, and meant it more than I knew. The group chat pinged, Theo posting a meme of a raccoon holding a padlock. Call if you want backup, he added. I'll bring diplomacy. For once, I almost said yes. Aunt Nita sent a link to a home security webinar with a coupon code NITA20. Maya heart reacted, then messaged privately, you okay? I typed back, staying with Mom tonight. She replied with a string of praying hands. Everyone helping the way they know how. I added a line in the notebook, right under don't be easy, 8, don't be alone. It looked stern and simple until I heard tires in the driveway and realized how hard it is to follow. The porch light flicked on, painting the rain in a cone. Through the glass, a shadow moved across the step with a gait I could map blindfolded. 2 quick knocks, a pause, then one, his pattern since I was a kid who locked himself in the bathroom and wouldn't come out until he promised to stand outside the door. Mom's face softened like fresh bread. Open it, she said. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the deadbolt in her door as if it were mine to guard. The unknown number's last message sat hot in my pocket. For a heartbeat, I imagined a stranger on the other side with my doorknob in his pocket and a smile he hadn't earned. Then I turned the lock. My father stood there with rain dusting his shoulders, a small red toolbox in one hand and a grocery bag in the other. Brought milk, he said, like we were starting with weather again. His eyes flicked to my phone, then to my face, reading the storm. Let me see the door, he added, already stepping out of his shoes, like this was any Sunday night and his son hadn't been learning how to be a secret. Dad set the milk on the counter like it was part of the toolkit. 3-inch screws, he asked Mom, as if this were a grocery item everyone keeps. My neck prickled. Same words. Same order. I swallowed it and grabbed my jacket. We drove in a rain that stitched the windshield into gray cloth. He didn't make small talk. He watched the road like it owed him money. At my building he took the stairs 2 at a time, toolbox bumping his knee, my new deadbolt already in his sights. He crouched, ran a fingertip over the strike plate, and sighed. Screws are too short. A hammer inside me hit the same spot twice. Better plates too, he added, gentle, like a teacher who doesn't want to scare the kid away from math. He replaced them without narration, drill whining, brass shavings winking on the mat. Hinges next, he said, moving down the door like a mechanic through a checklist. When he was finished, the door closed with a new sound, a low confident thud that felt like a yes. Inside, the room smelled faintly of damp cotton and something like lemon cleaner I don't own. He scanned without touching, window latch, closet, the safe in its corner wearing my ridiculous label. Warranties and old receipts, he read aloud, one eyebrow inching up. That right? I forced a smile that hurt my cheeks. He leaned close, saw my hair trick still intact, nodded once, approval, or recognition, I couldn't tell. We watched the entry camera together. I played him the clip of the shadow at my door. He tilted his head. Left-handed, he murmured. See how the shoulder leads? I had to rewind twice to see what he saw. Knocked polite, he added. Someone who doesn't want to scare you. Or someone who knows you. Each word was a thread tugged. I felt the whole sweater twitch. "Who has your key?" he asked. I listed the usual suspects. "Change the habit," he said. "Keys migrate." He peeled the painter's tape off the safe, slow, careful, and smoothed it back flatter, as if erasing someone else's thumbprint. Then he set the mug on top and nudged it a fraction to center. My skin went cold. That was exactly where I'd placed it earlier, off-center on purpose. Whoever had visited had left it like that. So had he. Patterns, like footsteps. He reached into his shirt pocket for a pencil stub, and something else came out with it, stuck by static, half a pad of yellow sticky notes. My mouth dried. Same size. Same faint grid. He tucked them back absently, the way you do with a tool you always carry. "I leave notes," he said, catching my stare. "It helps me remember what a door tells me." My phone buzzed in my palm. Unknown, good plate. Then a grainy photo of my door, tonight's door, with his new hardware shining. Dad's phone, an old slab with a cracked corner, lit up in the same breath. A text he didn't show me. He just looked at it, then at me, and for a second the distance between us collapsed into something raw and bright. "Jay," he said softly, the name landing like a hand on my shoulder. "There's something you're not telling me. And there's something I haven't told you." He set the screwdriver down like it might roll off the earth. "Both are about keeping you breathing." The hallway light clicked off with its usual lazy delay, plunging the entry into a dim that made the brass glow. I heard water move through the building's pipes, someone's TV laugh track filtering thinly through the wall. And then, clear as a match struck in a dark room, I knew the shape of the truth waiting behind his next sentence. He didn't clear his throat like in movies. He just rested his forearms on his knees and looked at my hands, which were clenched like I was holding onto the edge of a roof. "I've had a key since your mother locked herself out when you were 19, he said. "She told me not to use it unless I smelled smoke. Last night smelled like smoke." He tapped the new brass. "So I checked your door. I left the note because I'm bad at gentle, and I didn't want you thinking a stranger had been breathing your air without asking." He held up his phone. "Unknown. That's me. I hate calling when I know you won't answer." The room did a slow tilt and then righted itself. "You could have said it was you," I managed. He nodded, face tired around the eyes. "Should have. I've been a locksmith longer than I've been a good father. I fix things by sneaking up on them." He spread his palms. "I don't want your money. I want you safe enough to be mad at me in daylight." He pulled the sticky pad from his pocket and tore off the top sheet, revealing a list in tiny pencil, hinge pins. "Strike plate. Ask son what he's really hiding." He slid it across like an apology. The part of me that had been running little experiments wanted to keep running. Instead I walked to the table, opened the notebook to rules, and read them aloud until my voice steadied. "Don't announce. Move slow. Protect mom. Don't be easy. Don't be alone. Tell the truth, when you can stand it." I pointed at the last line. "I can stand it now," I said. My fingers found the key to the little breadloaf safe before my brain could talk me out of it. The hair I'd laid across the seam was still there, the mug gave a polite clink. Inside, the decoy photocopy lay where I'd placed it. I took out nothing. I closed it gently, then reached into my jacket and pulled the bank envelope I'd been too scared to carry until tonight. I set it on the table between us, heavy with a single flat thing and years of wanting. "I need you to help me not mess this up," I said. He didn't touch it. He watched my face. "Lawyer? Tuesday. Baines and Alder." His mouth twitched like almost a smile. "Good fence before gate," he murmured. I nodded. "Mom gets told first," I said. "Then we build the life in boring steps." He exhaled through his nose like a man who's been holding breath for a decade. We drove back to her house in a silence that felt like a bandage, not a wall. Rain had calmed to a fine hiss. She opened the door at our knock with that look that means she's already made more soup, just in case. Dad set the milk down as if completing a ritual. I put the envelope on the blue flower jar and told them how a scanner lit up like a dare, how I'd planned a test and hated myself halfway through it, how I wanted, finally, to trade guessing for trust. Mom's hands flew to her mouth, then she reached, not for the envelope, but for me. "We'll do this slow," she said into my shoulder. Dad, awkward, put a hand on my back and left it there as if it might learn. We built a small plan right there at the table, no announcements, no sudden gifts, debts mapped like a puzzle we would solve one quiet piece at a time. Mom wrote a new label for the jar, "First Steps," and tucked $1 in it like a joke and a vow. Dad replaced her front door screws without being asked, longer ones that bit into the frame like teeth meant for holding. My phone buzzed in my pocket. For a second my stomach fell, thinking of the unknown shadow that had knocked polite on a bad night. I looked anyway. A text from Lena, "You good?" Then, another, a photo of her cat under a blanket, eyes wide, captioned, "My security system." I laughed, out loud, right there among soup bowls and brass shavings. I typed back, "Better than good. Tell you soon." I didn't send a blast to the group chat. I didn't test anyone. I let dinner steam and future stretch. Later, alone in my place, the door thudded with that new confident yes. I tucked the envelope back in the bank box the next morning, after breakfast with my parents like we hadn't had in years. I added one more line to the notebook before I left, in neat block letters that looked steadier than I felt. 9. Don't build fences inside your chest. Then, smaller beneath it, a promise. 10. Drive polite. On the stairs, the motion camera blinked awake and watched me go. My pocket was quiet. The safe sat square. The mug didn't move. If there's a moral, I'm not wise enough to write it yet. I just know the ticket stopped feeling like a test and started feeling like a tool, and the jar on my mother's counter wasn't empty anymore. When I locked the door behind me, the bolt slid home like a sentence finally choosing its last word.